And the first time I channeled was to try to channel the healing for this curse, to try and figure it out. And I figured it out. And basically, I started communicating with a being. This being was on the Galactic Federation of Light, allegedly. And they started giving me what was basically the process for running this healing on myself. Hi.
How are you, Pete? How are you doing?
I'm good. Things are good.
Yeah. Welcome.
I ran back from the gym to do this, so I abbreviated gym visit just to make this podcast happen. So I'm really excited to be here. So it's good.
I feel really, really special now that you cut your gym time short, because I find my gym time to be very sacred. I do that every day to make sure that I'm grounding myself, and I give myself that personal time. So thank you for cutting that short.
I got it was an excuse to not do squats. So I wasn't in the mood to do squats today. So I'm like, and this gave me an excuse. I got that podcast. No reason to do squats. I took it easy, so I kind of sent it in today. But anyway,
you can't skip leg day. That's what I keep hearing. I see memes all the time about that.
I know.
Oh my goodness,
I did it.
It's okay. It's okay. I think it'll be okay. Yeah. You can always do it next week.
Thank you.
So Pete, I feel like, okay, so before we started, I was joking that you are Reiki royalty, and you said, "Oh no, stop that! Don't." You didn't want me to inflate your ego, I think, is what you were saying.
I'm not getting any free dinners off of that. I'm not getting let in any clubs because here's the Reiki guy. Like let's let him. Let's bring him into the VIP room. No, I'm not. So if I'm Reiki royalty, maybe I you know, it's not something that like I'm holding tightly to the chest here, but like I mean. Yeah, right. I have been doing Reiki for a long time. I do some really unique stuff in terms of Reiki.
Yeah.
You know, my exploration into Reiki, I just got super into it, and I did everything that I could find as far as Reiki, and then I started to channel my own Reiki, and then I started to channel, automated Reiki and things like that, and just started doing stuff that other people weren't doing, and it just all happened kind of like pretty quickly, but Reiki royalty. Yeah. Okay, if you say so, sure, fine.
That's I had to open up with that just to give some context as to, part of the reason why I wanted to have you on the show is that, I'm also an energy healer. I'm a Reiki master, and I'm attuned in Arcturian Reiki, which is the Reiki that you channeled.
There we go.
But I wanted to hear your full story, because I know only bits and pieces of your story from just what I've read on your Instagram and stuff. So like, how about for me and all of the listeners and viewers, let's start at the beginning of just like, who was Little Pete? Where did all this start?
Who was Little Pete? Wow. Yeah. So to go back, Little Pete was, was bipolar. And, I struggled with bipolar my majority of my life. And, Little Pete had years where he was wild and crazy and like just a ball of energy, and other years where he was not at all. Really had some, some struggles with depression at an early age. And really was just, assuming that everyone else was on a roller coaster. I was on a roller coaster. I was always on a roller coaster. I just assumed everyone else was on a roller coaster. And then I find out later in life that like, that's not the case. Like the highs and lows that I was experiencing was really just unique to me. So I think my childhood, I was, I struggled a lot with bipolar disorder. It was very, very challenging, and anxiety too. It was very challenging. I think I fell into the classic substance abuse path, self-medication with alcohol, cigarettes, weed, all of that stuff, as a younger teenager. And, I think I don't know that I would consider that I would consider myself an alcoholic at any point, but like I think I abused alcohol more than I should have. And that started at an early age, so that was part of my path as well. But yeah, I mean, little Pete was, up and down, and it really depended on the year.
Yeah. And so as you were going through the bipolar journey, as you were going through the substance abuse, alcohol, and whatnot, did you feel like you had a support
Yeah.
system when you were younger? Did you feel like you had people around you that could help you through that? No.
No, not
No.
at all. I'm from a small town. It's pretty blue collar where I'm from.
Yeah.
So even having a therapist was not the norm. I never had a
Mm-hmm.
therapist growing up. Therapy was never really in my purview. My mom was very mentally ill. She suffered from bipolar as well and schizophrenia. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even she didn't seek medical treatment. I mean, it was very, it was a simple life full of a lot of like simple folks, and the remedies were not there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I just self-medicated, because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think I ever felt like I had a support system. I had parents that were, one was stressed and the other one was out to lunch.
Yeah.
So I mean, they gave me love in their own way, but like they weren't able to give me what I needed at that time for my mental health. So no, I didn't have a
Yeah.
support system per se.
Yeah. So I know just from looking at your social media and the few parts of your story that I do know, there was a change where you felt like you were able to start taking charge, I guess, of your mental health. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what changed and
Sure.
what shifted?
Sure. So, I guess we could talk about my spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
Really the first one. And I was 30
Mm.
and I had been dealing with bipolar my whole life. Was still not diagnosed, but had been dealing with it my whole life. And, I was drinking a lot. I was in New York. I was working a lot. Um, I was really up and down, and I fell into a really deep depression at 30. And I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't get out of it. I was so depressed. I was so just in a pit of hopelessness and feeling lost about my career, about my life. Um, that I really had to look at myself, and like it was a existential crisis, truly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and this is about how old am I? 15. This is about 15 years ago. Um, and yeah, it was a really catastrophic time for me. And funny enough, in the thick of it, I sort of turned to religion, or I'll say that I turned to religious texts and religious material,
Mm-hmm.
because what I found out was that, in being, a full blown victim, these things are happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And as we ascend and as we get more advanced, we see that these things are happening for us.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like looking at some website or a book, or I don't remember what exactly. I think it was a website, and I was looking at the 7 deadly sins,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, well, these are me. It's just like I'm
Yeah.
doing all these.
Yeah.
I'm like knee deep in sin.
Yeah.
And you know, as a person that was not religious at the time, I was like, there's something going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I am sourcing this chaos that's in my life. I am the source of what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the first time that I really looked hard at myself spiritually,
Mm-hmm.
and relied on religion because I didn't know really where else to turn.
Yeah.
And I think that understanding of, there is right behavior and wrong behavior, and not to and not say, and I hate to use the word right and wrong, but like
Mm-hmm.
there's healthy behavior and there's unhealthy behavior. And that was the first time I really started to look at my behavior, and really tried to find ways to adjust. And you know, some religious text was helpful, and then I really got into the personal development. And the first book that really turned me on to positive psychology was Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant. And it was that book that really it gave me a compass toward healthy behavior and towards mental health. And I think that like launched me into a path where really since then I've been a personal development zealot. And you know, I live, eat, and breathe personal development and virtues and values and aligning with values and things like this. And really aligning with your true authentic self. You know, that time started that path for me, and it was really fundamental for me. And then later on, around that same time, I got into New Age spirituality, and then that kind of took it to the next level.
I heard so many great things in there, but the first thing that I noticed is that you called that your first spiritual awakening, and that it kind of kicked off a path of more spiritual awakenings. And I have to also just say, I love the fact that you were kind of speed running the 7 deadly sins. That's the first time I've heard somebody kind of say that they were doing all of this.
I collect these. I collect all these. Yeah.
Collect them all.
I got all these. Yeah. I came to New York to specialize in all these.
I mean, perfect. You know, next to Las Vegas, there's probably not a better place to commit all the 7 deadly sins than New York City. So, congrats on that.
That is not. Anyway. Yeah. More.
But anyway,
there's more bars than people in that city. Yeah. There's a lot of bars. So yeah.
So okay, so you look at some religious texts, you discover Tony Robbins, that kind of kicks you off into personal development. Tell us the next leg of this story and kind of what the next kind of spiritual awakening looks like, and how you went deeper into personal development.
That's great. So it's interesting because the personal development and the spiritual awakening all kind of happened in tandem. They're very different, but they're obviously very related, and they all kind of, you know, it kind of came in pairs for me at each stage. So like I said, I had this like kind of initial awakening with personal development and Tony Robbins, and then shortly thereafter, I really got into New Age spirituality, and I got into it through a type of belief system called Spiritism, which is quite popular in Brazil. And it's a lot of channeled information that goes into, I would say, the depths of how reincarnation works, and just ascension overall. And it's really, really beautiful. It's really cool. And I kind of cut my teeth there in terms of New Age spirituality with that, with those texts. So I got, you know, I think just the fact that, you know, we've done this before, we may do it again. You know, we're all coming in to this world with different levels of wisdom and information and gifts. Just understanding the whole reincarnational process. It was just like, yeah, this is obviously what's happening. This is obviously like the way this game is set up. So that was like just really, really, really revolutionary for me. And then I started to just read a lot of books that were related to spiritism and related to reincarnational concepts and things like that. And I think just, you know, really just got into the high level basics of like how this game works. And then continued on with my personal development, reading different books and things of that nature. You know, the Stephen Covey and, you know, other, you know, personal development gurus. So that was kind of the first step of it. And then, or the first phase of my spiritual awakening. And then the second spiritual awakening, I think, really came when I started to do Reiki. And started to receive Reiki. So the first time I got Reiki was from a gentleman in Colombia, the country, not the school, and I just had a transformational experience. I'm like, what is going on? Like, I am laying here. This guy is on the other side of the globe. I'm feeling all sorts of weird energy. Like how, what, where, why, what is going on? Like, I was just blown away. I was totally blown away. So Reiki, it was around that same time, literally around that same time, that I got really into the thick of positive psychology, which if you follow positive psychology, there's a guy by the name of Martin Seligman. Martin Seligman pretty much founded positive psychology, and he's the guru behind positive psychology. And I started to read a lot of his, his texts and his books. I got really into everything that he did. And I got what's called the Bible of positive psychology, which is the 24 character strengths book. It's about 800 pages thick, and it's just like, it really is a Bible for mental health. It's amazing. So that was kind of my second phase, which is this, deep digging into positive psychology and Reiki. And then I would say I kind of had a third spiritual awakening when I started to channel. When I started to channel, that's when things really kind of took off in a different way. And I had already been a light worker for a while. I had my own practice. I've been practicing and training on Reiki for years, but I didn't know how to channel. And then one day I tried to channel. I just thought I was just feeling called to do it, and I figured it out. And I figured it out really quickly. And that was kind of my third spiritual awakening. So there's layers here. There's layers going on.
There's so many layers, and about a million more questions that I have, but all of this is beautiful. I guess, the first thing, let's pause for a minute and maybe explain just in your words what Reiki is for people who may not know or may not have had really any, exposure to energy healing at this point.
Sure. Yeah, so Reiki is just spiritual energy. So Rei means spirit, Ki means energy. It's a Japanese word. I would say it's a Japanese word, but it's not really a Japanese modality. I mean, it is, but it was, energy healing has been in existence for thousands of years, practiced by shamans, practiced by medicine people, practiced all over the globe. It's, practiced in ancient Egypt, it's as old as the stones. But it was rediscovered in Japan about 100 years ago. So that's why we carry the Japanese name, which is Reiki, which just means spirit energy. And it's really about utilizing the spiritual energy that is around us and in us to heal faster. And we all heal. We're healing all the time. You go to bed, you heal. If you lay down, if you take a nap, if you just take a rest, you're healing. Your body's always in a healing mode, but Reiki is just a way of speeding it up. So it's an accelerator for healing and for personal growth.
Beautiful. I think that's a much more succinct description than I would have given. I would have been like, it's everywhere, it's around us, and you feel it. So thank you for boiling it down so well.
It is. It's that too. It's that too.
Yeah. It's just hard for me to, for some reason, put it into words. But I want to jump forward now to channeling, because I find channeling to be fascinating. And you called this your third spiritual awakening, and you said you just kind of figured it out. Can you tell me a little bit more about what happened when you just figured out channeling?
That was weird. It was funny. So yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff that went on there. So I had inherited a curse, a really weird curse that I had been unable to clear. And it was the curse basically got activated whenever I would take a hot shower. And if I took a hot shower, if hot water hit my head, my whole energy system would shut down. So basically the worst part of the day, every day, was when I took a hot shower. and I'd feel like crap after I took a hot shower. And I knew that this was like, there was some sort of weird, energetic, ancestral thing going on with this curse, and I wasn't able to get rid of it. Like, I had done a lot of clearings, a lot of ancestral healing, and I still had this weird curse. Mm-hmm. I decided that I was going to try and channel a healing for this curse.
Okay.
And the first time I channeled was to try to channel the healing for this curse, to try and figure it out. And I figured it out. And basically I started communicating with a being. This being was on the Galactic Federation of Light, allegedly. And they started giving me what was basically the process for running this healing on myself.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, I'd never channeled before. And I was like, am I talking to myself? Is this really happening? It's kind of subtle. You know, is this like, am I just making this up? Is this just my imagination? It was unclear. And the first channeling session was like, it was just really weird. I channeled a lot of like very specific information around this curse removal. And it was like with lots of like weird, you know, channeling the ray from Sirius B and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what is this? I don't even know. Like, I was really like weirded out, you know?
Yeah.
Sort of. But, so I did I did a channeling session. I channeled sort of what was allegedly the solution for my curse removal. And then the second time I tried it, they actually ran the healing on me, and they removed the curse real time as I was channeling. And since then I've been able to take hot showers and I'm okay. And it was crazy. I suddenly became the captain of my own healing. And I didn't have to go to all these other healers and like buy their healing. I could just download the healings directly from the galactic realms, and that opened up a whole, slew of me channeling new activations and healings and solutions. And it just like within 6 months I was doing the Stargate. Or within probably about 9 months I was doing the Stargate from after that. So and doing automated Reiki and all these crazy things, and it just came out of me like a waterfall. It was wild.
So, a million more questions here. So, when you were channeling this, before this came through, did you know who the Galactic Federation was? Did you know who Arcturians were? Was this all new to you, or were you familiar with these concepts before?
I was familiar with the concepts, but it was still a little new to me. I've been working a lot with the Ascended Masters and things like that previous to that. And then I started learning some Arcturian healings through another healer out of California. So I was familiar with the Arcturian energies, but I hadn't been working with them for that long.
Yeah.
But I had been ramping up pretty quickly. So I was familiar with the galactic healings, with the galactic energy in general. I was familiar with the Galactic Federation of Light, but I hadn't really dealt with them directly. So I was and I wasn't, to answer your question.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I would imagine still experiencing it directly must have been, I mean, maybe overwhelming, surprising, or were you like, oh, hey, these are my new friends?
No, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, number one, I was spending so much money on healing. I was spending so much money on new training. To have a direct pipeline to the galactic realms and to be able to download my own healings without having to spend money was just massive for me, because I was spending a lot of time and a lot of money on this stuff. So that really opened things up for me in an amazing way. And I think it was just really surreal. It was just very, very, very surreal. And really cool, really exciting. A really exciting and fun time in my development, for sure. And I was just launching the Reiki Club then. So yeah, it was a really cool, surreal time.
So you started this channeling, you start channeling personal healing, and then they start giving you, I guess, modalities for other people. And then you mentioned the Stargate. Can you explain what the Stargate is?
Yeah. So I'll take a step back. So basically, this is kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
I had a business, and it was more of a traditional Reiki / coaching business. And
Mm-hmm.
I was taking a walk with my ex at the time, or with my ex-girlfriend, my girlfriend at the time. And I came up with the idea of I was gonna do I was just throwing around business ideas, and I'm like, maybe I'll do like a pet Reiki club. I was like I think I'm gonna get into pet Reiki, because that is a thing. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I'll call it the pet Reiki club. And she's
Uh-huh.
like, okay, sure, do that. And then I'm like, that's a stupid idea. I don't have pets. I've never even healed a cat or a dog.
Yeah.
Like that's probably not very aligned. But I like the name. I
Yeah.
like the Pet Reiki Club. That's a good name. I'm like, the Reiki Club is a good name.
Yeah.
Um, and I started to think about it more, and I really wanted to create a business that was going to help people at scale.
Yeah.
I really wanted to create a business that was going to be more automated and more efficient than what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with an idea, um, and it was a good idea. And I basically created a bunch of crystal grids that were
Mm-hmm.
going to power automated Reiki for people. And I spent about, I don't know, $3,000 or something like that, or $2,000 on crystal grids. And I built the Reiki Club based on a bunch of crystal grids.
Yeah.
And I was going to use that to power my healings.
Yeah.
And the crystal grids ended up working okay, but not great.
Mm-hmm.
And it really wasn't that scalable of a system. So then I channeled something called the orbs
Mm-hmm.
from the Arcturians. Um, and then I created basically a system using these orbs where I could take a healing and store it in a file system in the ether,
Mm-hmm.
and then rerun that on my clients later on. So I wouldn't have to do a healing every single time on people, so that I could
Mm-hmm.
have an automated way to do these healings. So I kind of created this orb system. And then about 4 months later, I bought a Stargate.
Mm-hmm.
And a Stargate is basically, it's a funny looking metal contraption that
Mm-hmm.
connects you to the overall galactic platform that
Mm-hmm.
powers much of our universe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so getting the Stargate ended up connecting me to this system. And then through this system, I was able to set up automated Reiki in a much more scalable fashion.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, I've been using the Stargate to automate my healings. But like I said, that was version 3 of everything
Mm.
I was doing. So the first version was the crystal grids, then I used the orbs, and then eventually I used the Stargate, and it was just another mechanism. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
It was just another mechanism for me trying to automate and make my healings more efficient for people.
Understood. Okay, that makes sense because I've seen on your site lifetime Reiki memberships, which I haven't really
Yeah.
seen anybody else offer. So you're saying that you can, through the Stargate, if somebody says, I want Reiki every week or every day or every month for the next 30 years, you can just set basically a
Yeah.
program and the Stargate will just run that.
Yep. It's all
Wow.
automated. It's all
Wow.
automated. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I would love to kind of fast forward a little bit with, you went through all of these spiritual awakenings. Where are you now with all of
Sure.
this? I know that we talked a little bit about positive psychology, and I want to definitely dig into that a little bit more. But I feel like you've had so much transformation over just the past few years of your life since maybe the pandemic leading up to now. What is the current Reiki Club and Pete up to now?
So I think right now, I've gone through a lot of transformation. And I've had my own ups and downs. I was really sick for a while. I got long COVID. I was really, really out of it physically for a long time. So I took time off from working. I took time off from everything really just to heal from that. And lately I've been just doing a lot of work on myself as opposed to working with other people. And it's been really good. It's been really good. I've felt myself become a lot more centered, having a lot more fun, and just really just finding a deeper level of authenticity and consistency in my life. So, I think this chapter for me recently has just been about Pete. And it's been great to serve people still. I offer people free activations and free clearings and things like that. And people take me up on those offers. But, really, I took a step away from service and a step toward my own personal development. And I've dug even deeper into positive psychology. I've channeled, I think, what would be, an extension of positive psychology, and I've used that for my own personal development. And I'm feeling great. Excuse me. And things are really good. Things are feeling really, really, really good, and I'm feeling like I'm creating a new base to try to serve people at a higher level. And serving people through my healings and through my training. So my training helps people connect with their own Stargate. It helps people create their own modality. It helps people create their own spiritual business in a more scalable fashion. And I offer mentorship, and I offer just spot training for people that just like, I just want to learn the Stargate. I want to learn how it works. I want to take my business to the next level. I help them with that as well. So
I love that. I love that. So Pete, I want to make sure we do touch on positive psychology and your kind of your viewpoints when it comes to personal development, because I see that as such an important part of your life. Before we jumped on, we were talking about how, we both of us are woo woo, as we like to joke, but we're also regular people, and we also work on ourselves in sometimes very practical and maybe seemingly mundane ways. So maybe we can start with just, in your words, what positive psychology is and why it's important to you.
Sure. And I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, so much of life is mundane. So much of life is just having good habits, knowing what really maximizes your energy. And, that's pretty mundane, and that's pretty typical of everyone, but, if you don't master those things, you're going to have a lower quality of life. So, I really have a great reverence for the mundane, and a great reverence for, 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm up and I'm doing my exercises every day. That's as important as the Reiki. So I really, have, I really value, all of the personal development work that I leverage in my life. So what is positive psychology? Positive psychology is the study of mental health. And I would say that if you look at the broader scope of psychology in general studies mental illness. So, there's many psychologists and there's many psychiatrists that are experts in mental illness, but they're not necessarily experts in mental health. What does that mean? That means that we can study mental illness till we're blue in the face, and we can know how to treat it to a certain extent. But what's more important is trying to study the traits and qualities that embody mental health. And as we move closer to that, we move farther away from mental illness. So, these virtues, these character strengths, whether they be bravery or humor or critical thinking or curiosity, these are things that they're universal qualities, they're universal traits that we all need to develop. And basically, we're all a little bit different. Some of us have slightly different weightings on certain strengths versus others, But at the end of the day, our desire to have a better life is directly related to our ability to be authentic day in, day out. And positive psychology kind of gives you a decoder key on how to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why I love it. And I continually sharpen the sword, and I continually go back to this decoder key to figure out how I can be a better version of myself tomorrow as opposed to today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love that you bring up the word authenticity, because I am a huge proponent of living an authentic life and being your authentic self. Can you maybe give some examples of practical ways that positive psychology helps you be authentic, helps you to be the best version of yourself? Are there certain practical tips? Are there certain methodologies that positive psychology has given you?
Sure. So, I think that one thing that I have done, which has really helped, is trying to find that one virtue that really lights you up. There's usually one virtue that just really, really, really lights me up, or lights someone else up, and it may be different from your core virtue. But I have a core virtue. One of my really stalwart core virtues is humor. And I try and just keep things light all the time. I always try and do whatever I can to keep myself laughing, and keep myself in an upbeat, light mood. And I think the more you can understand some of these core virtues that really just make you tick, you can focus on them and really, really master those so that you can be in a great state. And so that you can mimic some of these states that you're in when you're around your best friends, you're in your sauce, you're just having a great time. These things help you deconstruct exactly how to do that, exactly who you are at your most authentic level. And like I said, one thing that I've done is just holding, really near and dear humor, when I need to use it, which is, pretty much all day, every day. So, yeah, that's just one approach to it.
That's really interesting that humor you consider a value, because I think we forget the importance of laughter in our lives, especially I think, and this is just my opinion, in the spiritual community. Sometimes we can get very serious about ourselves, and we forget to laugh at ourselves a little bit and just remember how silly life can be or how fun life can be. Are there any other values or any other techniques that you use in positive psychology that have helped you?
Yeah, I mean, decisiveness is something that I also hold near and dear to myself right now. So that's something that I've been focused on quite a bit. There's a lot of different tests that you can take that are related to positive psychology. You can go and take a test right now off the Values in Action website, which is the main positive psychology website. If you were so inclined to take a test and see what your core virtues are. But and I used to offer those to my clients and get them to take those exams, and then get them to take the tests, and then I would review the results with them, and I kind of go through a whole process. And I think I'm kind of trying to figure out how I want to layer in positive psychology into my own work, because it can be quite extensive. And my programs have traditionally been pretty lightweight. So I'm kind of at a crossroads of really understanding how I want to implement more positive psychology into my business. I know that I need to, but the question is, how am I going to do it? So that's kind of just something that I'm working on right now, which is part of the reason why I'm relaunching things and revamping things in my business and things of that nature.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good segue, because I wanted to kind of spend just kind of the end of our time here talking about the future. I know you said that you are taking that pause to think about yourself, look at yourself, make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Do you kind of have a vision for the future of the Reiki Club? Do you see yourself expanding it? Do you see it changing, or do you see you kind of moving into maybe a different project?
That's a great question. I think for now, I'm excited to get back to basics. I'm excited to get back to some of these programs that I've been offering for a while, which is the Stargate stuff. So I think that, I think it's going to be a revamping and just a relaunch of some of these programs. So I don't foresee anything super evolutionary or super drastic in terms of like how I'm going to be changing things, at least near term. But then longer term, I'm open to the mystery,
Yeah.
and like all these things are very mysterious, and like even my business is mysterious in its own way. So it'll be interesting to see the way things evolve, and interesting to see new ideas and new opportunities, and see exactly what changes I make. But I think for now, I think it's just going to be going back to basics, which for me, which is going back to the Stargate trainings and things like that.
Yeah. Wonderful. And to wrap things up, Pete, I always like to ask my guests to give advice to listeners. So I explained to you before we jumped on that lots of the people who listen or watch this show are spiritual seekers. I like to call us spiritual misfits, people who are figuring out their beliefs, figuring out where to go, what are their beliefs, what is their spiritual path. Can you maybe give all of us some advice for those who are trying to figure out what they believe and what path they want to take? Do you have any advice for people who are just figuring it out?
Yeah. I think if you're still trying to understand what you believe, I think that I would just read. I would just try to read as much information out there, and try and understand, other people's opinions, other books, other meta concepts that you feel you resonate with. And as you collect these new ideas and these new concepts, you're going to see how they correlate to things in your life, or how they don't correlate to things in your life. So, so much of my seeking, I was seeking for a long time, and really unsure what I was believing, or unsure exactly how this game exactly worked, the game of life. And now I'm at a point where like I pretty much know where I need to be at all times in my life. I pretty much know exactly what's going on, why it's going on. Doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't mean it's like, doesn't mean that it's fun, but like I understand what's going on and why at all times. And I think that is what our beliefs are there for, right? Like I think our beliefs are just there to help us understand, okay, what's going on in my life right now and why. They give us clarity. And I think, I think sometimes you need to seek and just read books and read different texts and find, the opinions of other people and other concepts, so that you can formulate your own concepts and your own beliefs, so that eventually you can reach a point where you have some true clarity in your life. So you understand, okay, this is what's going on and why. And I understand exactly what's going on.
Wow, that is amazing advice. That was wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Pete. That was great.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I needed that advice as well, because I'm always retooling my own beliefs. But anyway, Pete,
that's great.
Tell us a little bit just about where people can find you, and just a quick recap of your services and how people can work with you.
Sure. So my website is the ReikiClub.com. People can find me there. People can find me on my course on Udemy. You can just search for Arcturian Reiki, and I've got a course there on Udemy that you can sign up for, which is pretty low cost. It's probably under $50 right now. So through my company and through my courses, I offer people healing. I offer people training. And then in the coming weeks and months, I'll be relaunching my Stargate programs. So for people that want to learn how to channel their own modality, for people that want to learn how to automate Reiki, for people that want to take their spiritual business to the next level, then I'll be helping them through these mentorships and other training programs that I'll be offering as well. So once again, my website is thereikiclub.com, and you can find me on the Arcturian Reiki course on Udemy. And there you go. There's my plug. So
awesome. No, perfect. That was great. Thank you so much, Pete.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Highly Spiritual Person podcast. I really hope you found this conversation inspiring and uplifting. If you did, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more updates. And remember, sharing is caring, so if you think others would benefit from this content, don't hesitate to share it with your friends and family. We'll be back with more exciting content, so stay tuned and stay curious.